Yeah. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel, Sue Cook Brainbuzzz, the Child Brain Whisperer. I have a very special treat for you in store today. I've got here one of my best friends, the gorgeous and the lovely Kellie Jones, who is an amazing yoga teacher, Pilates instructor, who does amazing things for people's bodies. And she has recently graduated as an absolute goddess of the moon and all things moon. And I have been so excited about having a chat with her, and I've been looking forward to this for ages. And so, Kellie, talk to me. Tell me about how you got into doing moon things.
Well, hello. Thank you for having me here. I've been excited about this chat, seeing where it's going to go. So I am a Cancerian, and it was recently my birthday on the 7th of the 7th. I share a birthday with my mom, 7/7. And for that reason, I've always been a little bit fascinated with the moon. So I was that child. If you were going on a long journey and you want the child in the back of the car to go to sleep, I was that child that wouldn't go to sleep because I wanted to look out of the window at the moon and the stars. So I've always had a little fascination there. And then popping forward just a little bit about me. My original background is in theatre. I was a dancer. So I was lucky enough in life to go to full-time theatre school. And these days, now that I am a professional astrological consultant, knowing my birth chart, I know that I am a Sagittarius rising, and you are a Sagittarius sun. And
I certainly am.
Sagittarius energy is that of the ninth house, which is of higher learning, things to do with the big picture of life. And so, therefore, it's no wonder that your rising sign as your identity in the world has ended up with me being out there in the world. My identity now is all things moon, which is to do with my fascination with the bigger picture of life. So, um, in between theatre and dancing, I actually ran my own Pilates and yoga studio called Hummingbird for 16 years. And then, if these things just happen to us, we sometimes feel a bit of a victim of life, and these terrible things have happened that changed the course of our lives. Um, so I think this year it's getting on for eight, 8 years, 7 years, 7 years this year that I actually sold my Pilates and yoga studio. And that came with what one would now term as a dark night of the soul or a spiritual awakening. So even though us spiritual lot who have always really been into this stuff ever since we were young and we kept it secret, it was like our little secret thing. Um, Regardless of how naturally into these subjects you might be, it doesn't, it's not a way out or a get out card for having more spiritual awakenings. And in 2017, my dad suddenly got sick and very quickly passed away. And that for me, as a Cancerian, I was very attached emotionally to my dad. My dad was, to explain what I mean by that, is Cancerians typically need emotional safety and security is very high. So where a Taurus, a very strong Taurus energy might really need financial and material security to feel safe inside. I really need that emotional security. And my dad was kind of like my financial security, but he was, just to explain, my mum has lived in Australia for over 30 years. So even though I'm very close to my mum, I'm also very, physically distant from her. So my dad's sort of been, he was always my security there. And when he left so shockingly and suddenly, it really, really knocked me. I mean, grief for everybody is the same feeling, but we all respond differently to it. And that literally almost changed me overnight. I'd actually been single for 12 years on and off. I wasn't exactly on my own for those 12 years, but I hadn't met anybody. And Tom, my partner, came into my life 8 weeks before my dad left. And then within not too much, I think that was 2017, and by 2018 I had not really taken any time to grieve for my dad. And I was just inside me. I'd set up the self-love club during this time. So this is kind of where I was headed. And I was becoming very conscious of how much I was taking care of me. And I'd spent an awful lot of time doing a typical Cancerian thing, which is taking care of everybody else and neglecting myself. And I realized that I really needed to take some time off. I wanted to take a sabbatical from my business because I'd literally become my business. That was my identity. I couldn't talk to anybody without them talking about Pilates and Hummingbird. And I just wanted to stop that. And so it took me 6 months to organize having 3 months off. And when it came, it was almost due the time of that sabbatical. And I remember thinking to myself, oh God, it was all that GDPR thing, that anybody with a business knows that that was a nightmare. And I was thinking, I'm never going to stop. I'm never going to stop. Please, I just want to stop. And then 2 weeks before that sabbatical was due to start, I had a little bit of a tummy ache on the Monday evening whilst teaching personal one-to-one Pilates session. The next morning, I got up and I still had this pain in my tummy, but I went into work, me being me. And by the time I got there, I knew that something was very wrong. And my very first client was a paramedic. And she sent me straight to the doctors, and the doctors sent me straight to emergency surgery, and my appendix was perforating. And that was the last time I ever went to my business. So from that day
Oh my
forward,
goodness, I didn't realize that. I
yeah,
remember all the appendix thing, but I didn't realize that was, oh my
yeah,
goodness.
it was the very last day I ever went there, apart from when I sold it to collect my belongings. Um, so I took my sabbatical, I took my 3 months off. So 8 weeks after that surgery, I was in New York, doing what I'd already planned for myself, which was a whole month in New York, training in advanced Strala yoga with Tara Stiles. And I remember walking into the studio there, and I felt very vulnerable because of everything that was occurring, emotionally inside me. And my body didn't feel like my own at the time because it had been, cut open and stuff. And I remember walking in that studio and just seeing on the board, she keeps things very simple, Tara. There's no fluff at all. And there was just a chalkboard, a blackboard in the corner that said, simplify, simplify, simplify. And it just felt like that.
Yeah.
um, and so yeah, I spent that month in New York. And whilst I was there, I made the decision that when I got back, I was done and I was going to sell my business. So, and that happened, and I sold the business. And then within a very short time of that happening, menopause happened as well. So this was, like a mad period of time where the head spinning round, green stuff coming out, very angry, didn't really know who I was, what was happening. But the two things that save me every day are Strala yoga and diving deep into astrology. So during that time of selling the business, I didn't know what to do with myself because I was suddenly at home without purpose. And without realizing as well that this whole perimenopause, people talk about it now, but then I wasn't fully aware that when that menopause time comes along, also your motivation seems to disappear. You seem to become, it's like an existential crisis time in life, isn't it? Who am I? What am I doing? What's my purpose? What's the point? And one of the things that I started during that time was I was doing little moon ceremonies for myself. I'd been following Yasmin Boland. I ended up doing her certification in moonology, and I set up holding moon circles. So every new moon, every full moon. And I did those in person until 2020 and lockdown and all of that happened. And then during that time, I was then started doing it on my own again and thinking to myself, oh, I don't like doing this on my own. I really need to share this. So I started doing them online. And to this very day, I still hold new moon and full moon ceremonies every 2 weeks where possible, unless I'm, not able to for some reason, like being on holiday, or it's just not possible. So, and I have upheld that commitment ever since then. And so I kept doing that, but I was still in this, I don't know, what's my purpose now? And I started, maybe I'd actually signed a contract when I sold my studio, which prevented me from working in my hometown of Chelmsford for 5 years. And I hadn't really realized at the time, because it was such a confusing and emotional time. I hadn't really realized what I'd done to myself by doing that. So everything needed to happen either online or away from here. So I started doing retreats and sound healing. So I still, as you can see behind me here, I have Saturn and Uranus planetary gongs. And the Saturn gong is actually Tom's, and he's an Aquarius. So these two gongs are both Aquarius's ruling planets. He chose Saturn, and then he realized that, and it is in his birth chart as well, because I've looked, that it's really not good for him to be in the public eye. He doesn't really enjoy that. It's not where he thrives. And he did one event where he did the gong on his own and he hated it, and he asked me to do it with him. And of course, having had my own Pilates and yoga studio, I used to host gong baths so that I could go to them. And so I ended up buying the Uranus gong. I did the training, and now we are known as Gong to the Moon, and we do sound healing events together.
Such
So
a great name, Gone to the Moon.
Gong to the Moon. And we actually have one this Friday on the 25th. So if you're local to Chelmsford area, it's at Highwood Village Hall this Friday. And that is a new moon in Leo gong bath. And we don't just use the gongs, we use singing bowls, drums, things like that. So I was doing a little few sound healing events. I was doing some retreats and festivals, some workshops, but all involved me having to go somewhere else. I really tried to get the yoga and classes and things happening online, but because of everybody being in lockdown, I felt like that was saturated. But that's where you and I started doing yoga online during lockdown, didn't we, together? And that was really sort of,
Friday
that
mornings,
grew
leaning
our
on a
friendship.
good friend.
That
Leaning
grew
on a
our
good friend.
friendship. Yeah. Um, so yeah, so that was our and we started that up and we called it as a joke, sort of astrologer yoga for goddesses.
Brilliant.
Uh,
Yeah.
and what's grown out of that is we now have a much bigger goddess group, don't we? That
Do.
we keep as a small safe container for us woo-woo
Yeah.
who like to gather together.
Yeah, our goddesses could be called witches, I suppose. But we're goddesses instead, or some of us
Yeah,
are mermaids.
mermaids, witches, goddesses, use whatever words you
Yeah.
like. It's just that we see things a little deeper than others, maybe. We see beyond. And,
Yeah.
I'm a Sagittarius rising, and there's you and Fran in the group who are both Sagittariuses. So you know, all of us within that group see something beyond what we just have been taught how to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think with the whole, probably 2020 was the catalyst for me diving much deeper into astrology. So I had the moon thing going on, and during that time when we were all at home wondering what to do with ourselves, I signed up to do an online astrology course. But whilst I was doing it, I actually worked out that I actually contacted them to tell them that there were a few mistakes in there. And I realized
Oh,
I knew quite a lot more than I thought I did. And they actually had to apologize and rewrite bits of that course. And so I never actually finished that course because it felt like it wasn't genuine. It didn't feel deep enough for me. It, sorry, I'm just going to put my charger into my camera. That's it. It didn't have the depth that I was looking for. And by this point, I was listening to multiple astrology podcasts, and I came across Adam Ellenbass of Nightlight Astrology, and he's a Cancerian. I think he's actually got Mercury or something in Cancer. There's a couple of things in our charts that are similar. And what is similar is he's an astrologer and his wife is a herbalist. And, you know, something for people out there to know is that in our little goddess group, we're all into making our own medicines. And I really got into making my own medicine for myself out of the herbs and flowers and things.
I love your rose potion that you made me a while back.
Yeah, roses is my favorite medicine. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got tons of roses in my garden, and I make lots of things, including my latest thing at the moment is rose syrup. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah.
And what else can I add
Wow.
rose to? And roses are super good if you're grieving. They're good for heartache. They're very gently uplifting and soothing. Very Cancerian, I feel. Very nurturing. It's a
Yeah.
self-love, self-nurturing flower. But Adam and his wife, he's an astrologer, she's a herbalist, but together, they don't anymore, but together for quite a while, they owned a yoga studio.
Oh,
So I felt like I really resonated with him, and he really does have a deeper philosophical take on it. So he really, the way that he talks about it really, called out to me. And he had a course coming up, which he does every year, called Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic. And that just had me written all over it. I couldn't really afford it, but he actually does an assisted thing where he does a Kickstarter campaign every year, and the money that they raise from that Kickstarter campaign goes to paying a team to help him put out 5 days a week podcasts and run his training school, and also to enable people that can't afford the full price to take the course, and you can do what you can afford. So I've just done 2 years of deep dive training in Hellenistic astrology. So Hellenistic astrology is astrology, but it is what the astrologers back in the day, when they had no computers, no science, none of that, and they just used to sit and observe the cycles of life and the likelihoods, where all the planets were situated and how that had an effect on people and the collective. And so this is going right back to the beginning and then integrating it with the more modern way of doing things. So that is what I am doing now. So I've
sounds
started doing
inspiring.
quite a few readings recently. Yeah.
That's just so great. I was at a party on Saturday, and one of the other guests came up to me and she said, "What star sign are you?" And I said, "Oh, I'm Sagittarius." And so she got me to do an online chart. She read it for me. She was going, oh, and oh, and oh, about all the things that were there. It was like, oh, you've got to meet Kellie.
So on the chart front, quite often you can get free charts done. More often than not, when you
Yeah,
download a free chart, it will automatically do it in what's called the Placidus system.
right.
That's based on the more scientific sort of rationale way of doing things, where they realize that planets have moved and they move certain degrees. And when you look at the houses in a zodiac chart, you might see in the Placidus system that you've got like two houses in one sign. The ancient Hellenistic way of doing it, we use whole sign houses. So it all means the same thing, but they're just slightly different systems that we use. So I use whole sign house system, and it actually, for me, it simplifies it again. And it's back to that word simplify, keeping it more
Simplify. Yeah,
simple so you can look at the big picture more easily. That's why it appeals to me. So
sounds good.
I did look at your chart last night after we were messaging each other.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
What, any gems to share?
Well, I haven't got it in front of me, but I know that there's you are a Gemini rising. Gemini is your rising sign. So even though you're a Sagittarius sun, you can, our rising sign is how we come across to others in the world. So if you think of your life like a movie, with the
Yeah,
sun being the plot line of the movie. So the sun is like the essence of us, and it
yeah,
kind of sets the plot line of our movie of our life, the story of our life. So my story will be very Cancerian, yours will be very Sagittarius, but it will also be very much to do with the house that it's in. So I know that my sun is in the 8th house, so my storyline has been around the subjects of death and inheritance and shared resources. So some of the challenges that I've had in my story have been where I've been in some kind of relationship, business or personal or otherwise, with others where financial and shared resources come in. So it helps to make sense of a lot of stories of things that have played out in my life. Our rising sign would be the character that we play in that movie. Yeah. So yours is a Sagittarius themed movie, but the character that you play in that movie is that of the Gemini, which is why you do so many things. It's why
yeah,
you've got so many things. So, at the moment, a couple of book launches that Sue is doing, and one is to do with the brain in the jar, brain in a jar, and your work with all things neuro. And then there's the chicken report, which is like hilarious cartoon, chicken related stories, which is super funny. And it's like, which way shall I go? This way or this way? Just like a chicken, actually. This way, this way, this way. So
yeah.
that's that very Gemini, loves to have a chat. You're very good at communicating, because Gemini is all very much about around communications, you know, um, and knowledge. So Gemini is all about knowledge.
Yeah, I have a
Um,
lot of that.
yeah, whereas Cancerians are much more about nurture. Yeah, and
Oh, okay.
the mothering of
My
or
mum's mum was
the child. Huh?
Cancerian. My mum's mum was Cancerian, and she was really, yeah, she was really nurturing and funny, and she was really good with people, and such a
So,
character. We enjoyed her, and
well, an interesting bit of research that I've just done recently to do with the current astrology is Adam, my astrology teacher, every year he is auditioning for people that are either current students or ex-students of his school to co-host some of his podcasts with him. So I decided to
yeah,
audition I wasn't successful this time, but the
Oh
success
no.
came in applying for it. And what we had to
Yeah.
do was a 15-minute podcast on Uranus entering the sign of Gemini. So I knew, and it was one of my signs to have a go, was that Uranus entered the sign of Gemini on the 7th of July, which is my birthday.
Yeah.
Um, but if Uranus has just entered the sign of Gemini, then Uranus has just entered your first house of identity. Uranus takes 84 years to go around the zodiac. So it stays in a sign for around about 7 years. Uranus is a little wonky. It doesn't have a normal sort of like orbit like other planets do. It kind of tilts. So it's not exact in each sign that it stays, but it's around about 7 years. So for the past 7 years, Uranus has been traveling through Taurus, which is why we've seen many radical changes, because Uranus is about radical change. It's the maverick, which is why I think I chose the Uranus gong. Because I definitely,
Yeah.
Uranus is quantum, it doesn't do time. It's very fast, and it can bring sudden, unexpected change out of the blue. Expect the unexpected. It's very hard to plan for Uranus, apart from knowing that the radical change is likely in some respect, and it can come in a shock, in a terrible shock, or it could come in an amazing, shocking way. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things, and I don't want people to be worried about Uranus being in Gemini and stuff like that. But there are a couple of stories that I can tell you to give you an example of how that sort of energy plays out and where
Yeah.
it creates change. So in my research, I went back to look at when Uranus moved into Taurus 7 years ago. Uranus moved into Taurus on May the 15th, 2018, which was the exact day that I went into hospital with my perforated appendix. In my chart, Taurus is in the 6th house. The 6th house represents your daily routines, your day-to-day mundane life. It represents health and well-being and being of service. So sort of very Virgo type subjects. So Uranus entered on May the 15th, 2018, my house of daily routines. And if you remember at the beginning of our conversation, I was talking about, I'm never going to be able to stop. I want to stop. I don't know how I'm going to stop.
Yeah. There
And
you
that
go.
changed everything.
Stop.
And I never, ever, ever went back to my daily routine through and because of my health and well-being.
Yeah. Powerful.
Yep. And then on the 7th of July, my birthday, you know this story already, but I'm just going to tell it for the listeners. I was down in
Yeah.
Cornwall with Tom in our camper van.
This year. This year you're talking
Yeah,
about. Yeah.
this year, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I'd been saying, because of doing this podcast, and I have my own podcast called All Things Moon on all the channels. I'd been researching Uranus moving into Gemini, and I know that Uranus was going to be entering Gemini on my birthday in mine and Tom's house of relationships. So our birth charts of house-wise are the same. The planets are different, but the houses are the same. So it would be entering our house of relationships, the 7th house. And on that very morning, we'd been arguing because we'd had a terrible trip, because really Mercury was in its shadow phase of turning retrograde, and our trip had "don't go" written all over it, but we ignored all the signs and we went. And there's all kinds of, a 4.5 hour journey took 7 hours. When we got there, I'd left the food in the fridge and Tom had left all his clothes at home. I mean, I'm not joking. We had no food. He didn't have any change of clothes apart from what he was wearing. We'd seen the forecast. The weather was going to be rainy and windy, and he just had shorts and flip-flops. I mean, it just was disaster. We ended up, instead of doing something nice on our second day of our trip, we found ourselves in a retail park in the Next sale. We've got about 1,000 people in Next, which is Tom's worst nightmare. He hates shopping. I had to go into personal shopper mode and find him some clothes. It was just, then I walked all the way. Once we got to Cornwall, I walked into Falmouth from our campsite on my own because we would at each other. And I walked all the way and found a supermarket and met some really nice people on the way and had a nice glass of wine while I was there as well. But on the way back, I got absolutely drowned in the rain. I had to walk across a pitch and putt course with 2 bags of shopping. I mean, picture the scene. So this is what's occurring just as Uranus is about to move into my sign, into Gemini on my birthday. And then the morning of my birthday arrived and I woke up to hear howling wind, pouring down with rain. I could hear my phone pinging. And there were lots of birthday messages, and there was all these wonderful birthday messages saying, have a magical day, have a wonderful day, love you, love you. Oh, wonderful. But there was one message in there from Tom's sister, and that message was for Tom. His dad had been trying to get through to him, and it turned out that his mum had been taken into hospital a couple of days before. She'd had a cough that was going on and on and on and on. She couldn't stop coughing, and her lungs failed. And that morning of my birthday, she almost died. And the good news is she's at home again now and she's doing really well. But what happened was our whole trip was cancelled. We had to pack up and then drive 6 hours to the hospital with Tom thinking that his mum was going to die. And
horrible
in that
experience.
instant of getting that message, he turned around and cried and apologized for how my birthday had turned out. And it switched from this sort of like resentment into deep appreciation. And what that is going to look like in our house of relationships, who knows? But I don't want people to think that Uranus makes you go to hospital, but they are just two sudden shocking things that happened on the actual day of Uranus moving. And I think when Uranus moves signs, it really does come with a bang for a lot of people, depending on your chart and where your story is. It's going to be there for 7 years, and it's also going to move back into Taurus in November because it will be retrograde to finish up, and then it will move forwards again. So, but they're little stories to show how it's not necessarily that it causes something bad to happen, but what that thing happening causes in you to shape and change your trajectory of where you are headed, and it shifts you somewhere else. So you, Sue, have Uranus in your house of identity, how people see you in the world.
Yeah.
And we already know that you're getting raving reviews for your chicken report. And I think it was only the other day I said, who would have known? With all the amazing things that you do that are, of super high intelligence, because, Gemini is intelligent. It's the mind, it's Mercury. You work with the brain, but you're getting these amazing reviews for your humor. And I mean, you've got a chicken behind you as well, which is brilliant. Like, yeah.
Big red cock or a big purple cock, whichever way you want to look at it there. Everyone loves a big purple cock behind them. And then we have Yolandi in
Brilliant. Brilliant. So yeah, I'm waffling on. I'm going to let you, I'm going to have a sip of my coffee whilst you're
Well, it's
supposed
funny you should say about the humour thing, really, because um, as a homeopath, we periodically get stick from people telling us that it's a load of nonsense. And so I went through a phase of saying to myself that if anyone ever asks me what I do, I'm going to tell them I'm a comedy writer. And then
to.
somebody did ask me what I do. So I thought, oh, I think I'll experiment with this. So I said, I'm a comedy writer. And then I was going to, change the conversation back to them. And they said to me, well, what kind of stuff do you write? And I went, well, funny stuff, obviously. And they said, give me an example. And then, of course, I panicked. And I said, I like it when my partner says potato salad to me in German because it's such a romantic language. And they just looked at me blank, and I wasn't sure if it's because they did understand German or if they didn't. So I think
Oh
it's
my God,
part
I
of
just get the
or
joke.
something.
Basically.
Oh, I could stretch that sketch out for ages,
Yeah, I
but
bet you could.
yeah, we have a lot of fun. Me and Lloyd, who's his is the big purple cock there, and the Yolanda, his pictures. There's another there's another cock in the corner as well. Have a look there. Can you see that one? It's
But yeah, I mean, there's some, I see some good things in your chart last night when I had a very brief look, but that
oh
was
good, thank you.
I suppose that was the most sort of the current one, just
My
because.
identity and
Yeah,
yeah,
but also if you think that if Gemini is your rising, then Cancer, the sign of Cancer would be in your house of money, house 2. And for this
yeah,
next year, we have Jupiter going through the sign of Cancer. And Jupiter is the
yeah.
benefic. It's known as a
Ooh,
benefic. Um, I think all the planets, out there in what I would call pop astrology, they tend to get like give Saturn a bad rap and Jupiter's great and Saturn's bad and all of that. But I think just like people, all planets, all signs, all archetypes, they have a lot higher and a lower expression.
yeah,
But to have Jupiter traveling through your house of money, Jupiter
yeah,
expands its opportunity, it's optimistic, it's more fortunate, um, it's abundance.
yeah,
So, watch this space for you that you have Jupiter in your house of cash, property, and possessions. And Cancer is relative to the sign of Cancer is relative to the home as well. So, you know, um, watch out for if any opportunities come along that
yeah,
are likely to bring abundance, you should take them and see where it goes.
yeah,
Don't sort of over Gemini think it, just take the
yeah,
opportunity. And I can see from a distance that you have been taking opportunities. You've got some
yeah,
great things coming up. So,
yeah. Really interesting and different things happening for me. Absolutely. But I'm really delighted that people are liking my books. Brain in a Jar's had great reviews and selling, and the Chicken Report is my latest book's A Gift for Santa, and that's a story about gratitude,
yeah, and
children's
before we
fiction.
know it, with this quantum Uranus in Gemini time, it will be Christmas before you blink your eyes because Uranus
Oh,
is like what
yeah,
we call it, God of the airways. So like the speed of sound, the speed of light. It's that kind of
yeah,
everything will speed up. It will feel like everything's going a little bit too fast. And um,
yeah,
in actual fact, something that really sort of blends what you do and what I do together is that whole Uranus in Gemini energy is
yeah.
Gemini is related to the nervous system
Oh, yeah,
physically. So if you were looking at medical astrology, Gemini represents the nervous system. With Uranus being there, it could be that people start to experience more feelings of, restlessness. Just only yesterday, Tom and I it was a rare situation, but we were both in Tesco's together, which is, it's usually me. But we were actually
Yeah.
in Tesco's together and we were in a bit of a queue waiting, and we happened to be both looking and thinking. I knew we were thinking the same thing, and there were people sitting waiting. So there were mums with babies, and but every single person sitting there was like, not really paying attention to the baby because they were too busy looking at the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, and I could see this lady's leg was going, when someone's
Yeah.
leg juggling. And that's what I mean by like this Uranus in Gemini, it's internet AI, all of this,
Yeah.
what takes up here and out of our bodies is going to increase. So the necessity for us to get into our bodies and do things which are to help to slow and calm our nervous system is going to be more crucial and important in the next 7 years or so of time.
Okay. Like grounding and walking bare feet and
Yeah, yeah,
just being in nature and hugging
yeah.
trees.
Meditation, yoga,
Yeah.
and also any remedies that help to
Yeah.
calm and slow down, because
Yeah.
Uranus was in Taurus before. Uranus is fast, but Taurus is slow. Um,
Yeah.
Taurus is, though, to do with money. So we've seen the digitization of money whilst it's been in Taurus. It's also to do with
Yeah.
agriculture and the economy. So we've seen radical changes in food and food supplies, things like that. And also in values. Taurus is to do with our values. It's Venusian. So we've seen a big shift in people's values. Some have got worse, almost like they
Yeah.
have no values. And some people's have got stronger, and there's been this real sort of, if you know, us lot would notice that there's been a real return to growing your own vegetables, knowing your
Yeah.
garden, knowing the herbs that are good for you in the garden. So when you go for a walk now, it's not just a walk in nature, you're noticing what's on the way that could be foraged for food. This
Yeah.
sense of coming back to community as well. That
Yeah.
would
I
be
love
the
my herbs. I've got quite a lot. And
Yeah.
for
So,
those purposes.
but
Yeah.
that would be, some advice that I would give that would correlate between what you do as a homeopath, what I
Yeah.
do with, yoga and astrology and all of that, the sound healing, but things that calm, that restlessness feeling. It can be a good thing to have a restlessness, if we need to get on with something. Um, Currently Mars is in Virgo, so that's a really good
Oh,
energy for getting organized, because Mars is motivation, it's action, it's going forwards, it's doing. And Virgo is getting organized,
yeah.
perfect things.
Yeah. My mum and my niece are Virgos, and they're definitely good examples of that, of having things in order. Something that I'm interested in with going back to the gongs, sound healing. So they do have a healing effect, don't they?
They do. Yep.
Gongs.
Um,
What can you tell people about that?
yeah. Well, one thing I feel quite strongly about the words sound healing. I do put them
Yeah,
out there in a hashtag, but I don't tend to promote us as sound healers, because
right.
I don't believe that it's not us healing you. The
Yeah,
gong aren't healing you. What we're
yeah,
doing is we are facilitating a space where we create the frequencies and sounds with the equipment that we've got, so that
yeah.
your body and your mind, your emotions and your energy all return to a state, that self-healing that can happen. Yeah.
I love
So
that.
healing is
Yeah,
more possible when you are in
yeah,
that state. So ideally, when you come to a gong bath, what's ideal is that you end up going into that place between awake and asleep, the delta state, where you're
Oh,
like
okay.
that, when you wake up in the morning and it's that bit that where you don't really want to wake up, you want to stay there because you feel, oh, this is like the most amazing bit. It's
Yeah.
I'm not quite awake. I could drift back into a dream or I could get up, but I want to stay in this why we press the
Yeah.
snooze button. Yeah. So
Yes.
it's kind of like going to a gong bath is like pressing the snooze button in a way. It's
Okay.
doing that. It's bringing you into that space of if you're very, very stuck in that fight or flight mode, it might take you a few sessions to really let go and surrender to it. The more
Oh,
you can let go, obviously the greater effect it's going to have, but it's going to have an effect regardless. So what
yeah.
happens is it's like I always wish I could see it, but you can feel that the room is filling up with sound vibrations and frequencies. And sometimes when we're playing, we never really know. It's not like playing a musical instrument where you're playing a tune. You never really know where it's going to go. And sometimes you hear two pieces of sound equipment joining together and they then create a new frequency or sound.
Wow.
And
So,
sometimes people will say afterwards, like, were you playing like I could hear like church bells, or I could hear angels, or I could hear an aeroplane, or they hear these sounds which are all coming in through their delta state of dream state. So
wonderful. So you have so the two gongs behind you, they are
mm.
of a different pitch, and then the different planets, you can get gongs for them too, and they're all of a different pitch.
Yeah, so some genius person out there was probably an Aquarian or a Gemini, probably an air sign, um, worked out the frequencies of the Earth and then worked out mathematically all the frequencies of the different planets. So all these planetary gongs are handmade, they're hammered until they become the frequency of the planet that they're being attuned
That's
to.
incredible. Isn't that
Mm.
nuts?
So this
Ama-
that Uranus would have that maverick, eclectic sort of
Yeah.
um, in actual fact, almost I know even it can even be Uranus energy is really good for epileptics. So I think with Uranus being
Oh,
in Gemini, we may see, genius solutions and inventions and creations for epilepsy. I
gosh.
think that's a possibility in that type of energy of creation. Um, Saturn has a more grounding reality check sound to it. It's much deeper and lower and that more serious thing. It's much more strong in its
Yeah.
energy, that one. Um, it really does sort of, bring you into a more grounded sensation, I think, the Saturn gong.
Good. So if you have the two gongs, I mean, what would happen if you had all of the planet gongs in a room? Would it be too loud, or what would that be like? Because I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Would
I
it be
don't
just
think
too
you
much?
ever play them all at the same time. It would be a bit much, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
but a lot of people that come to us, they love it when it gets ramped up. They love it when it's ramped up to the max, and Tom gets lost in the gong, and he's going for it, and we're going for it. And
Yeah.
quite often he will pick the Uranus gong up, and he walks around the room with it, playing it. So he makes
Wow.
these different sounds with it, playing it. I've only ever done that once, and that was by accident when I was doing a women's retreat, and I took Uranus with me. I remember it was a really hot day. I took Uranus with me, and I only had the top and the bottom of the stand. I didn't have the pole
Oh
because
no.
I think we'd done a sound healing the night before, and I'd left it in the other
Yeah.
vehicle. So
Oh,
I had to hold the gong to play it. So everyone's lying
and
on the
they're
floor
heavy.
completely unaware, but I was having to hold it. and it's really heavy, and I remember all the sweat just dripping off me.
Oh,
It's awful.
yes. Awful
Never
for
did that
me.
again.
No. Wow. I know that I was around your house a few years ago and I was playing the gongs with you. Do
Yeah,
you remember? It was lovely.
yeah,
And it was absolutely magical. Absolutely loved
yeah.
it. And
They are
all the
weird.
tone you can get and the escalation of sound is just mind blowing, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it
Really, really
is.
enjoyed that. Yeah.
So,
So
yeah,
you're writing a book.
I'm writing a book. I've been
Are
writing
you
a book
still
for
writing?
about my whole life. I am writing a book. Yeah.
How's it going?
So it is, under the banner of all things moon. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, funny you should say that, because it probably is time for me to come back to that subject. Um, I do know that Uranus is going to travel back into my house of daily routines shortly. So hopefully it
Yeah.
will like give me a little bit of like, just a little shift in the daily routines, because I find that um you know, I've got to tell everyone, like, Sue is like this, got this genius brain where she decides to write a book, she'll sit down and this book just comes out. She's like that. Whereas I'm like, 20 years in the making of a book. So I do actually have an ISBN number and everything for it. I have a cover,
Yay.
all of that. It's just getting that content finished. It is.
I
So
started writing another book yesterday, you'll be pleased to know.
yeah, Sue's written a book, about 10 books in the time it's taken to me not finish one.
I am quite prolific, it has to be said. But
Yeah, yeah, you are
yeah, if you
speedy.
want any help with that, just let me
But yeah,
know. So, what else? Sorry, darling.
well, so
What did you say?
a couple of things that I've just sort of added to my website is that, everything's a practice, and I've been doing full birth chart readings. Now, a full birth chart reading really does take some time. And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
unless you've been an astrologer for sort of 40, 50 years and you can just do it like that, even then it would take some time to go through someone's chart. So I've realized
Yeah.
that I've been doing sort of very much underpricing the full
Oh,
chart
okay.
reading. So I recently did a discount for people right up until my birthday. And then I sat down and had another look, because, this is a time when, it's a reality check. Saturn is currently retrograde. Any
Yeah.
planet being retrograde makes you go back over things. Neptune is retrograde. Neptune is the dream.
Yeah.
Saturn is the reality. So I've been going back over, what is the reality of this dream of being out there as an astrologer. So one of the things I've realized is that I cannot possibly do that much work for that small amount of money. So I have sort of up leveled the price and the time and what everybody gets from the personal birth chart reading. But what I have done is, so that people can get some kind of reading
Yeah.
done, I'm now offering a sun, moon, and rising reading. So we will just
Oh,
look
yeah.
at the three basic things that you need to know and understand about your chart so that you can get
Yeah.
started. And therefore, if you want a full birth chart reading, you can maybe sort of do that later on, but at least that
Yeah.
will give you an understanding, and that takes me less time to do, and we can, still give you plenty to be going with, and it
Yeah.
simplifies it as well. Because when you have a full chart reading, it's a lot to
Yeah.
take in. So also, what I'm now offering for anybody who has had a full birth chart reading and has done the whole thing is I'm now offering 30-minute quick fire check-ins. So you can
Oh,
come
that
and
sounds
have
brilliant.
a chart check-in. Yeah. So it's like an
Yeah.
express version.
Yeah.
You have to have had your full birth chart reading done for that. So
Okay.
there is now an option so that rather than just, it's like you doing a full consultation and then never seeing anybody for a checkup. You would definitely
Yeah.
see them for a checkup. So a full consultation, I can now do some check-ins with people so that we can, just look at one area, or, everything's moving all the time. So where we're at, there might be just one burning question, and we can take that half an hour session to just look at that one part. And then there's the sun, moon, and rising. So someone can get it's like a mini chart reading, but your sun, your moon, and your rising are the three basic things.
Yeah.
And you've been through the sun and the rising, but your moon is your emotions. It's how you are emotionally.
Yeah.
I do a whole moonology reading as well. So that's an hour, and we plot all the new moons and all the full moons for the year ahead on your chart based on your rising sign. So you do need to know your time of birth to have that done. And we have a little look at your moon sign whilst we're doing that as well. And I usually do an oracle, pull a couple of oracle cards and give you a journaling prompt during that session as well. So, and that's what we do in moon ceremonies. So a moon ceremony, whether it's a new moon or a full moon, new moon's a time for looking at what we want to manifest, what our wishes are, what we want to begin again. It's about being new again. And the
Yeah.
full moon is about what we want to let go of and release, and no longer take forwards with us. And during a moon ceremony, we look at the current astrology, we dive in a little deeper, we look at crystals, herbs, potions, tarot cards, things that are
Goodness.
all helpful and supportive to that moon energy, where it's showing up for you in your chart. And we do some
Yeah.
journaling prompts with oracle cards and a little ritual. So, yeah.
Well, who would want that? Sounds absolutely fabulous.
And I am still
How?
teaching. I am still teaching some classes. So it seems
Yeah.
like at the moment the universe wants me to teach bar classes. So it's
Is
literally
bar ballet? Is that
ballet bar.
ballet?
Well, it's got a touch of ballet in it, and you use a ballet bar.
Yeah.
Mostly the research that I've done and what people do in bar classes, it's really a lot of sort of fitness stuff at a ballet bar.
Oh, okay.
Myself and the two other teachers that work at Studio Libra in Chelmsford, we're all trained dancers and Pilates teachers, so you will get more dance in those
Yeah.
classes. Both of the other teachers can't teach some of the classes that they've been teaching anymore, so they've been handed to me. And I think it's
Oh,
funny that at the beginning of the year, Mars was in my sign of Cancer, and I remember Mars going retrograde. It made me go right back to my childhood, and I found myself sadly at a funeral, but at the wake. We were at the community centre where I had my first ever ballet class as a child when I was 2.5.
oh. I think I remember you telling me about
Yeah,
this.
and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden I'm teaching 2 bar classes a week. And on Friday, one of them's an express bar class, so it's a 30-minute class. My mum is in the country at the moment from Australia, and my mum came to my bar class. So I just thought,
Brilliant.
this is so funny how these stories play out. There I
Yeah.
was at the beginning of the year in the community centre where my mum took me, and it was the first place you could ever leave me without me screaming the place down, was at ballet.
Goodness
And
me.
here's my mum at a ballet bar class with me. And my mum's 80, by the way. So she was showing them all
I
off in
love that.
her leopard print yoga pants doing bar class. No one could believe that she
Good
was
for her.
80. And I'm
Oh,
now
goodness.
55. That sounds like a joke.
So, Kelly, how can people get a hold of you?
So you'll find me, my website is kelliejones.me, and that's KELLIE Jones.me. I am All Things Moon Kelly on Instagram. My podcast is All Things Moon, and you'll find me on YouTube, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. If you don't want to go to any of those, I have a podcast page on my website as well. I do have an All Things Moon group on Facebook, but I really don't like Facebook very much, so I'm not there that much. So
You've
it's
got Gone to the Moon as well, haven't you?
and I've got a Gong to the Moon page as well, Gong to the Moon on Instagram. But
Yeah,
yeah. But the thing I'm really, really needing right now is for people to
yeah,
go to YouTube and press the like and subscribe. So please
yeah,
do press the like and subscribe on Sue's channel and on mine so that we can get all this wonderful, magical
yeah.
information out to more people
And
because
I
it helps
have to
us to
say,
thrive.
I always, yeah, I love watching your moon updates. I watch all of them from start to finish, and I love them, and I can highly recommend them. They're so engaging. So thank you so much for sharing that with the world.
You,
It's great.
Sue.
So I hopefully see you soon, my darling, and let's finish this here now for
Yeah.
everybody, and we'll catch up really soon in person.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.